1,000 megawatts of power, not even the entire Philippines can produce that. So we have a source of recyclable materials that we can reformulate that will supplement whatever we can produce. But we will go into the details of that later on. We did disclose some of this before, but it can be controversial because, well, the name of that recyclable material is petroleum coke. Okay, it's like used tires. It's if you use used tires, like in England, for example, they actually give incentives to use materials that have been used before. So you are reusing something. Pet coke is something like that. We are not going to use coke. Okay, pet coke actually is just carbon. When you charcoal is carbon. And we have plenty of that in Canada. It can last 1,000 years. But since we are business people as well, we have to use something that's cheap enough to give us this competitive advantage. So that's one of them. But we can use municipal solid waste, and we can use all the biomass that we can get our hands on in a legal way. Does that answer your question? You have another? Please, so that when I discuss these things, you have an idea of where it is in the bigger context of things. Okay? And then if you have some doubts, please ask us. If we cannot answer, we'll tell you. But we will be transparent to you, and we have no hidden agenda. We have no ulterior motives except to help each other and to help this country. Okay? So, with that, let me proceed if there are no more questions. So, there are 3 parts to this. Okay? Hopefully, I'll finish by about 5 or 5:15. And then we'll have our dinner. Our dinner will be over there at the restaurant. Okay. So this presentation is in 3 parts. For the first part, I actually did explain already the context of this relaunching. Now, actually, that was the plan earlier, but now as I said, I made this presentation about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. We're not yet relaunching DMX. This is just like an orientation. We decided to do this because earlier we did announce that we're going to have a seminar. That seminar was supposed to be a whole day affair, going into the details. This one is like just an introduction, like a teaser, so to speak. So we're not going to relaunch the DMX yet, but we will if we get enough dealers and distributors. It takes, for example, this bottle here. This is made in the US. Well, I cannot buy this bottle anymore. So we have to source it from the Philippines. But just to do the mold, the injection mold, it's already 300,000 pesos. Okay, so just for the mold. Then you have to have a minimum. Okay, you don't talk about the actual product. Okay, and you cannot buy in small quantities. So to do this, we have to invest quite a bit of money. All right. So depending on the response, then we will make a decision. Okay. So what DMX? Earlier we Hugh explained the technical portion, but DMX is more than just technical. So I will explain that. Also, I mentioned that this was my bread and butter when I was in the United States for the last 15 years. So what are the credentials of DMX? And then the tentative products that we will launch. Since then, as I said, we have graduated from just this to power generation. So I'm going to touch a little bit about that as well. Okay, So in context, as I said, this is part of Mindoro Energy City, and roughly this is how we visualize Mindoro Energy City. It's a city, but we produce synthetic natural gas out of even waste, like this one, okay? And then we will export. Now, incidentally, when I was talking to the congressman last week, he's very excited because he's saying, well, I have graduated from the synthetic natural gas to making Mindoro the hub of natural gas exports in Asia. And I said, fantastic. No, tama-tama yan. All right. So, this DMX is one of what you call the enabling technologies of what we're going to be producing there. Power, for instance. If we use diesel as our prime mover, we need to reduce the friction. When we reduce the friction, we will reduce our fuel consumption. When we reduce the fuel consumption, we will reduce our cost of producing power. That's DMX. So we have other technologies like organic Rankine cycle. Or do you know that for every 100 units of energy available in a diesel fuel, about 70% of that is wasted into the atmosphere. Only 30%, roughly 32, 33, is being converted into mechanical energy that brings you from point A to point B. The rest is wasted. That's why you have radiators in your engine. Why do you call that radiator? You radiate the heat into the atmosphere. That's wasted energy. So the ORC will convert that wasted energy into electricity without using more fuel. And there are more of that. So the DMX is one of them. Okay, one of the enabling technologies. Okay, so that's how it is related to this vision. So what is it? What is DMX? Well, actually, a long time ago, I thought, well, I started with philosophizing. Let me tell you just a quick story about how I came up with the DMX. Have you heard about this power up, motor up, what else? SFR, Duraloop. Have you heard about this product? Well, when I was in the United States, I had still a business here, so I would go in and out every month. And what I experienced then was, when I go back to the US, it takes me about 2 weeks to get rid of my jet lag. And when I come back to the Philippines, it takes me 1 week only. So what do I do during those 2 weeks? I couldn't sleep. So there's this, I would watch TV, and I see this, what they call infomercial. And they were trying to peddle this additive called Duraloop. And they actually challenged the oil companies that they would give, what, $50,000 to the charity of their choice if they can beat Duraloop. And you know, being an oil man, I was fascinated by that. And so I bought one like that. It cost $50 or $75, I don't remember anymore. It was not cheap. And then, of course, I knew oil formulation. That was my business then before I went to the United States. Then, to make the story short, I found out it's just chlorinated hydrocarbon. Well, for those of you who know, that's a no-no in an engine, because chlorinated, meaning there's a chlorine, hydrocarbon, you attach chlorine to the carbon, and you put that in your engine, the chlorine will dissociate, react with water to form what? Hydrochloric acid. You don't want acid in your engine. So I thought, oh, they're fooling me. So I called the Chevron. Why are you allowing this company to make fun of you? And they said, oh, we don't. These oils, these are called snake oils. They come and go and won't last very long. Sure, it did. You know, it didn't last. Duraloop is no more. But during that time, you know, I was young and I was always. I just came back from the Philippines fighting Caltex, Shell, and Petron. I said, no, you can't allow this small company to insult you every day. So I said, okay, I'll come up with something. So, to make the story short, I came up with DMX, but using no chlorine. And I already know somehow how to fight the oil company, so I use the same chemistry, except that it's kind of different, but the same chemicals as the Duraloop. That will give the same performance as the Duraloop. And so, after so many years, the Chevron was right. Duraloop had so many copycats. One of them is actually also done by a Filipino in Canada. It's called Power Up. He's a Filipino who used to work for Exxon, and so he knows about fluorinated hydrocarbons because that's what Exxon does. And so what happened was, after a few years, all of them had problems with the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, except DMX, because we were not using bad chemistry. So I was philosophizing at that time. So DMX is actually an engineering philosophy. And of course, it is technical, it's technology. And then it's not just one product. It has many derivative products. And as a matter of fact, we're going to be using this to reformulate a lot of fuels for the power plants. And then it's also service. That's why you heard earlier, what's that? What did you mention? A smoke buster. So it's actually a service as well. So let me just go through that quickly one by one. Okay? It's an engineering philosophy. In other words, I did not just invent something for the sake of inventing and making money. There was a reason. And that's precisely to address environmental issues. Because at that time, even now, when people re-refine used oil, they had a lot of problem with the chlorine, because one of the processes would be to fractionate the used oil, and if it contains chlorine, then it would corrode the fractionation towers. And so it has a lot of environmental problems. So I said, I'd like to come up with a product that will not only make me money, but also will not be a problem for others and the environment. So it's just a philosophy. Okay. How do you do that? Well, here are the. By the way, all of these are in your CD. Okay. So I don't have to go into the details because that's not our intention for now. Friction is a big problem. The reason why you have lubricants is to reduce friction. But as Hugh earlier said, there is a racket in the oil industry. And I know this personally. When I say personally, it means I have not just heard it. I actually saw it, and I was part of it. When I say I was part of it, it was not that I was participating with them, but I actually was fighting against them. And as a result, though, by being with them, I attend the conferences, I attend industry gatherings, and I interact with them. And here is what I found out. The American Petroleum Institute would create a certain standard. Let's say it's 65, the passing grade, okay? Based on what you said earlier, LSAT, International Lubricants, what was that? LSAT, International Lubricants Service Association or something, okay? And then the oil companies like Lubrizol, Chevron, Shell, will spend millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars, to meet that 65. They will not spend money, you know, it's so easy for them to make it 80%. But they will not do that. They will spend millions of dollars just to pass the 65, because if they do beyond 65, they will sell less oil. If they produce less than 65, they fail. So that's the racket. But then I realized making it to 90 is very easy. I don't have to monkey around with so many, experiments just to meet the 65. It's so easy to make it to 80 or 90. And that's exactly what I did with DMX. That's why I was able to enter the market with very little capital. Okay? That's how I managed to survive in the United States with an expensive family without getting a job. Okay? I never worked for anybody in the United States. I employed Americans, but I never worked for anybody. That's how I did it, DMX. Okay? And so this is the standard. How do you address all of this? Okay. They also have this. For example, there is a chemical called ZDDP. It's a zinc organometallic compound. They need that for what you heard earlier, the word boundary lubrication, where the two metals are just about to touch each other, but not completely touch. Okay, they need a chemical that will address that. But then the problem is they're using something that's poisonous. Okay, it's called ZDDP. So it's only now that they're trying to reduce that product. So knowing that that thing is, is bad for your health, we decided to eliminate that from our formulation and actually come up with a much better chemical that would address beyond the boundary lubrication. It addressed the extreme pressure. Okay, so because of our philosophy, this is what we were able to come up to address. Okay, beyond what the oil companies are doing. Okay, so that's engineering philosophy. So DMX is also a technology. What do you mean by that? Well, I had to study tribology. Tribology is the science of friction and wear and lubrication. Alright? And I had to concentrate on what now is known as extreme pressure or EP technology. You can use fluorinated hydrocarbon for this and others, but they're all environmentally bad. Also, the lubricant, the engine oil, is actually, from a philosophical point of view, and technically, it's our carrier only. So the oil becomes not your lubricant, but your carrier for the lubricant, which is the DMX. So that's technology. How do you do that? It requires technical skill. Then we have to use material that's good. In this case, it's alkaline based. Okay. In particular, it's calcium carbonate. But what kind of calcium carbonate? Because calcium carbonate is solid. You need something that will dissolve in the oil. How do you do that? You turn that into organometallics. I'm not gonna go into the details, but basically, it's the technology. DMX is also technology. What else? Well, DMX, again, it's not just one product. It's not just this. Although, as a disclosure, I probably spent about 5 years on just one product before we went into other product lines. And as Hugh mentioned earlier, we had to discover a lot. We started with DMX only as an extreme pressure in order to come up with something similar to Duralube, Prolong, and the others. But in the end, it is just by discovery. We kind of discovered together. Sometimes it started as a problem. For example, there was a customer that came to us and said, well, my engine runs so, it's like dragging, it's like the oil is so thick. And so, first, we didn't know what was wrong. So what we did was, we changed the oil, replaced it with a new one, put DMX, and after that it worked beautifully. And the customer was very happy. Well, it turned out to be that the DMX would dissolve the sludge at the bottom of the oil pan. And so it will, how do you say that, suspend, okay? And since the sludge is thick, it will thicken the oil. And then that's the reason why the customer felt sluggishness in the engine. But when he drained it and replaced it with a new one, oh, the engine just run like strong stuff. Anyway, we had to discover a lot of things, which allowed us to produce more product lines. Okay, so during a formal seminar, we will talk about all those product lines one by one. And it's also services. So we have all this, look at the product lines, and then services. We mentioned earlier the smoke buster package, okay? Power engine conditioning and gas station franchising. So for those of you who might be interested in gas station, it will not just be a simple gas station that sells fuels and sell cookies and water and so on, but a lot more. So it's a lot of service, okay? So if you become a dealer, it's not just one product that you will handle. But the core, this is already like in the late 2000. We have graduated from that to this, okay? Basically, to give you, kind of summarize this, how will I put it? Making DMX is like you need a doctorate degree, okay? In the refining industry. Making gasoline is very easy. As a matter of fact, I started to make gasoline in the Philippines in the early 1990s. That's how I actually started. I made gasoline. Not an ordinary gasoline, but unleaded gasoline. I was the first to introduce unleaded gasoline in the Philippines. And since then, the oil companies followed. And that's also the reason why it ultimately led to death threats to me. That's why I had to leave the country. And even if during my student days, I would say, bagsak ang imperialismong kanok. I ended up seeking refuge in the United States kasi it just happens when you fall in love, it doesn't matter whether you're Filipino or American. So I fell in love with American. So when we got married, we had 2 kids. I was in danger, so our first refuge was the United States. Okay, but before that, I was shouting this to the Americans, and that's also the reason why I had to stay in the U.S. because, of course, my priority was my family. But now that I'm divorced now, unfortunately. My kids are already, one is graduate, the other one is graduating. And I really don't have to worry about them because, maybe magmamalaki yun, medyo full scholars sila. So I don't have to worry. So now I'm back, basically. So, we graduated from that to this. And believe me, if you scour the internet, okay, you will see that we are leading in all of this with respect to design. With respect to design and engineering. We do not build the refineries ourselves, but we design them, advanced refineries. But that is actually not as advanced as making this. As I said, this is doctorate stuff. Refinery is like high school, college. But then our refineries are different. Okay, you can check that out on the internet. So that's what I mean by this is doctorate stuff. In the industry we call that downstream. Gasoline is upstream. And I made that when I was a lot younger than now. I'm what? I'm I'm more than 50 now. Malapit na akong mag-senior citizen. But when I was young, I made gasoline. Okay? The oil companies that claim to be magaling because they make gasoline, that's not true. They're not magaling. I deal with designers of refineries in the US, and these are smarter people than those that that run refineries. So we are like this in the US. Because of this, and now I'm relating this to what we're doing in the Philippines now, we actually have a very good knowledge of different kinds of fuels. Fuels that we can use to come up with clean, green, low cost, long-term sustainable fuel. We call it socially responsible power. Where in the world have you heard that you can use charcoal in a diesel engine? Right? Well, he is a general who siraulo din if you're siraulo, okay? But those are certain knowledge and expertise that we claim to be kind of proprietary to us, okay? And ito, pag binasa nyo yan, because you have the materials, you will see that we are very advanced there. Now, before I leave the topic about the advanced, please understand that we are, again, engineers, technology architects. And that's basically what I do, okay? But do you know that I don't even know how to do welding? Okay? Well, you and I are designing a mini plant. Okay? We work on that together. And when we look at the facilities of UP and the others, we say we cannot really do that in the Philippines. So we decided to fabricate, to build a mini plant in England. Okay? And we have somebody there who is an engineer and a fabricator at the same time, which is a rare talent. Most of the fabricators, those who know welding, they're not engineers. And most engineers don't know welding. Well, we have somebody there who is both, and he's also an inventor. Then we heard a little bit of bad news saying he's not well. So what happens? So then I know he knows how to weld. And he can execute our design, right? And what did he tell me? What did you tell me? No, it's not exactly the same. He knows how to weld, but this thing is an art. Okay? So he may be able to do welding, but it's not an assurance that we can do the right thing. Alright? But the point is, the reason why I'm saying that is, yeah, I know how to design, but I don't know how to execute. But the thing is, we have people in our organization that together we can come up with something really unique. Okay? So that's what we have. Continuing, well, anong credentials ng DMX? Well, this is the best credential we had in the United States. We were product of the year of a prestigious lubricants magazine in the world called Harsh Lubricants World. Unfortunately, at that time, wala pang internet masyado. So, you wouldn't really see this, okay, on the internet right now. But believe me, we are. He knows that. He is a witness to that. We are the first in the world, and still is, to be what you call an extreme pressure lubricant that's alkaline material, and no chlorinated material, and no toxic organic metallics. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, we're the only ones with no bad record with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. In the Philippines, I tried to bring it back here early 2000. We actually had thousands of dealers and about 300 distributors. We made a lot of money. This is not 300. This is about 3,000. It was an MLM, multi-level. So in about 6 months, we had about this much. They call it distributors, but they call them distributors, but not the kind of distributors that we are contemplating. They are just kind of MLM people. Then we had to stop. We lost millions of paid. We're not happy with it, but it's part of a disclosure to you. I was with the general at that time. He lost money too because of that. But it gave us a lot of experience. And there are still people who are waiting for us to come back. But I decided not to go back to them. I decided to just, hopefully we can start with a small group and then expand later on. So those are our credentials. We have been in Australia, Japan, Europe, England, and so on. You might ask the question, what happened? Well, I had to graduate from DMX. Okay, so we went to refineries, and now we find a very strong potential in the Philippines, and that's power. And we're using our expertise in fuels to create a competitive advantage over the others, and hopefully we can produce low-cost fuels and others in a way that would reduce the cost of electricity in the Philippines and make us competitive in the ASEAN market, and also, of course, give relief to a lot of people who are suffering because of high electricity. So we have to graduate from that. There is a personal aspect that I need to add. After I lost maybe quite a few million pesos then, and I went back to the U.S. My ex-wife didn't want me anymore, so that led to my divorce. And for about 3 years, I gave up everything and did nothing basically. And people like Hugh, who didn't want me to go crazy, these are the people who sent me money. And when I say money, it's not tinitay bit. They sent me enough money to even send back some to my parents. So that's that's our history. Okay. So about a few years ago, we decided to go back to this, and here we are. Okay? It was not easy, but it was good experience. So if we go to the Philippines, what do we do? Now, besides power, okay, which we are concentrating right now with DCD and others, here are the tentative list. Hold on, notes the reintroduction. Let me just skip that. Here are the product lines. DMX, that's this one. This is the one that won the product of the year. Then we have a package we call Smoke Buster. It busts the smoke. And we will have what you call a power engine tune-up. Actually, I kind of borrowed this idea during the time we were early 2000 when we had a group of dealers who actually came up with this idea, and they were very, very successful. Basically, they transform an old engine, an old car, into a supercar, something like that. They're very happy with it. They made money. So we're gonna borrow that idea and actually improve it. So these are our initial product lines. So details, just look at the material providing you. So that's the banner product. That's the video, which is also there, so you just watch that separately. I don't know if I also have a video. I mean.